Tottenham were actually unlucky, but Aston Villa showed you just the value of having a striker like Ollie Watkins. When he's on form, do you know what I'm saying? It's like he's always a nuisance, man. And it's just about taking your chances. And you saw in that game, man, the chance from Kulusevski, man. If he puts that away early doors and you go 2-0 up, it's a different game.
Yeah, I think this has been a problem with Spurs all season. We can't put teams away. It's crazy because you know what it's like. You know when you put posts out on your community feed before a game and say, everyone, we're playing this today, give us your score prediction. Whenever I do that, I get 4-1 today, 4-0 today, 5-0 today, 5-1. And I don't know where we're quite getting this confidence from. We've scored 5 goals against Burnley, and other than that, we haven't scored more than 2 goals in a single Premier League game. And in the last 3 games, it's true, man. Like in the last 3 games, we've got 1 goal each game, but we have chances. And it's that, is it unlucky when it happens all the time? Is that unlucky, or is that the
quality?
It's
a lack of quality. It's not unlucky. It's a lack of quality. But we knew that though, because when you look at Spurs' front line, it's only really Heung-min Son that can guarantee you goals. He's the only player. Do you know what I mean? Richarlison doesn't guarantee it. Kulusevski doesn't. Johnson doesn't guarantee it. So until you address that, that's always going to be an issue. Creating chances isn't the issue for Spurs. It's taking them.
Yeah. Look, I think that one of the key things, I want to take this back to the last week of the window. We knew Kane was going. The club have all but admitted that, Kane has said he knew he was going, and Postecoglou said that on day 1 of joining the club that Kane had already said he was basically going to leave. And I'm thinking, all right, you can't replace Harry Kane. We know that. There's not Harry Kanes out there, and if there are, Spurs don't buy them. But I think you've got to try and replace some of the goals. And what we did was we went with Brennan Johnson. Now, this isn't a dig at Brennan Johnson. Brennan Johnson's a young man who's got his role in teams. But I just think that 47 million could have been spent so much better on somebody who will grab you goals. Somebody. Didn't have to be a worldie. Talking like a Santiago Jimenez, right? That level. And we didn't. And unfortunately, like you said, Kulu is not clinical at all. Brennan Johnson's not clinical. Charleston's not clinical. Brian Hill. The only goals that are going to come from our team are going to be from James Maddison and from Son. And that's why I look at it, and maybe I'm harsher than other Spurs fans, Rants. Maybe I am. I don't see that these defeats are unlucky. If it keeps happening, that's a pattern. That's not unlucky. It keeps happening. We keep not finishing our dinner. So I don't know. I mean, Man City next as well. That makes it 4. Now you're 4 defeats in a row. What do you know what I mean? How does that stop, Rads? How do you cut that off? You know?
I don't think there's anything you can do about that. One thing I would say is you have to take, if you're Tottenham, you take every game for what it actually is. Do you know what I mean? Because there's a danger of grouping these results together and then it's all doom and gloom. But look at, apart from the Wolves game, forget Wolves, like Man City. Even if you had everyone available and you lost that game, no one would have been surprised. Like,
no,
it's
of
Man
course
City.
not. Of course
Do you know what I'm saying? The Aston Villa situation, was unlucky. Given all the injuries that you've had, is unlucky that you played them at the time you did with the players, and you could have won it. Like, do you know what I'm saying? And then what was the game before that? The Chelsea game, you had 2 players sent off. So it's like, it's easy to kind of group it all together and start catastrophizing. But just like if I was a Spurs fan, I wouldn't get so down about that. It's just as a Man United fan, like we've won like 4 or 5 on the bounce, and it hasn't made me any more confident about my team. I still know we're rubbish. Do you know what I mean? So
I don't think it's all doom and gloom. Listen, this was expected. Whether or not it happened now, later on in the season, there was always going to be a time where we went through some adversity. We're going through it now. That only goes to show how important it was that we did have the good start that we had. Otherwise, we'd be slipping right down the table. Look, as I said, I feel like we'll lose to City. Then we've got 2 home games in a row. We've got West Ham at home in London Derby, and then we've got Newcastle United at home.
That's a difficult game, but you win them 2 games, everyone forgets about the 4 games that you... But if you lose to City, then everyone forgets about the 4 games before. That's what football is.
I think if we can get a minimum of 4 points from those 2 games, that would be brilliant. And look, for me, nothing's changed for me, Rants. I've had the same target for this season all along. If we can get back into Europe, it's a good year. If we can get Champions League, it's a phenomenal year. So for me, let's get the first target out of the way. Let's get back into Europe. I think we will. When I look at the strength of the league.
Mm.
Are there 7 teams better than us? I'm
No.
not sure there's 7 better than us. I think there's definitely 4 better than us, possibly 5, depending on fitness and injuries and stuff. But yeah, look, it's just, you're right, because it's all grouped into one, because it's 4 in a row rather than, if someone had said Spurs are going to play 16 games this season and we've lost 4 of them, you wouldn't bat an eyelid. You wouldn't bat an eyelid.
But
One
that's what I
defeat
mean.
every 4 games.
We've lost 10 games this season, bro. Maybe 11. 10. Like, that's crazy for Man United. We've lost more than we've won this season. And everyone's giddy because we're on a run of playing against teams that are fighting for their lives. Do you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't really mean anything. Any decent team that we've played, we've lost. And we're bottom of our Champions League group. So this is what I mean, is you have to use perspective when you're looking at both teams' runs, because Tottenham beat some very good teams. We haven't beaten any good teams yet. And people are saying, oh yeah, but we're playing so bad and we're this close to Tottenham. But look who we've played. You know what I mean? That's what you need to look at. And look at our goal difference is 0. The 0 goal difference is showing us that we're struggling to score goals, and also we're struggling to keep goals out. So there's not really much positives to take from where we are, because it will balance itself out.
Yeah, look, of course. I think, as with any kind of debate, as with any topic, it's probably somewhere in the middle, right? With all of these things, it's never as bad as you think. It's never as good as you think. It's probably somewhere in the middle. Look, Tottenham for me is, I think what's happened is the really good start has made the football world sit up and notice us quicker than I think we expected, right? And I think everyone then started going, oh my God, look at Spurs. Spurs, how are they going to do? They're going to drop off. But whereas I think if you actually take a step back, if you take off bias against, whichever way you want to look at it, I think you turn around and go, if someone said Tottenham are going to be 5th after 13 games in the Premier League, 4 points off the top of the table, you'd say that's been a really good start to the season. And it has. What we've got to make sure we do, though, as I said, the Man City game for me is a free hit. It's the 2 games after that, followed by Forest away. We say, right, you've got to get some points. You've got to win 1 and draw 2, win 2, draw 1. You've got to get some points, because otherwise, what you will then start seeing is the gap, which I think is going to happen anyway. By the way, Reds, I think Liverpool, Arsenal, and Man United and Man City will start to create a little gap there between the rest. And I think at the moment, the Spurs, the Villas, they're clinging on to a coattail, but we know it won't really be there when it matters. Do you know what I mean?
No, 100%. But what you got to realize also is, it's like, it's just a momentum thing, innit? It almost feels like a rut, innit? When you don't know where the points are gonna come from. It's just like when you were on your run where you were beating everyone. It's like fans felt like, oh, this is never gonna end. It's almost if you were like winning 2, drawing 1, winning 1, losing 1. It's almost easier to manage, even if you end up with the same amount of points. It's just because it's all grouped together. That's what people need to understand, that the league is 30 odd games. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, you can go on a run of losing 3-4 games, but then if you go on a run of winning 6, all of a sudden, like, nobody remembers. Like, football, you're very much as good as your last game. Like, that's just kind of how it always is.
For sure, mate, for sure. Listen, you're right. If we had lost 1 every 4 rather than 4 in a row, it would just be normal. Look, I'm not worried. This season for me was, I've said it, it was a free hit for Postecoglou. It's a free hit for him, for me. I think that it was quite unfair for some fans to start putting that pressure on him of challenge for a title. You must win something this year. This year for me was clear out the deadwood. We've done some of that in the summer. We'll do some more in January. We'll do some more next summer. Clear out the deadwood. Implement the philosophy. Let's get to the end of the season and say, all right, the players are happy, the manager's happy, the fans are happy. Now, next summer, what you got, Levy? What you got, Enoch? We've seen the style of play implemented now. The fans are happy. Everyone's comfortable. The manager's not new anymore. What you got to kick on? But I just think we need to, I think we need to just know what we are at the moment. And not when I say we, I mean all football fans need to realise what Spurs are at the moment. They are a work in progress with a new manager, a new ideology, new philosophy. And for me, it's not it's not the end of the world losing to Villa. It's not the end of the world losing to City.
It's not. Especially
It's
the
not.
form
It's
that
not at
Villa are
all.
on, with the injuries that you've got as well, and the manner you lost. It's not like you got completely outplayed and they battered you
For
like
sure.
that. It
For sure.
wasn't that. Like,
For sure. Look, I think what people get frustrated about more than anything is, look, you've worked with me long enough to know that I like to critique things. I like to have a look and go, okay, we didn't win that, right? Why not? Could we have done anything different? What could the manager have done? Was that substitution right? It's what
yeah.
we're YouTubers for, right? So we can debate and talk football. I
Mhm.
mean, what people don't like is if you start doing that, they start looking at you and going, oh, you don't like the manager. Like, I think the manager made a couple of strange decisions yesterday. I thought he was really brave and got it right to begin with. Then I think the in-game management, I think, tailed off. With that, you get, oh, you want him out. So, whoa, no, no. That's where I think we're at. Listen, I'm comfortable with where Tottenham are this year. I didn't expect
Yeah.
anything. You know that. I'm not expecting silverware this year. We've got far too much deadwood at the club,
For
and
sure.
it's all on Enoch and Levy in the transfer windows. Nothing will change until they change.
No, 100%. But the thing is, it's like you can't critique anything because like even when people are saying about you not playing a centre back and all this nonsense, it's like, listen, if you take your chances and you win the game, yeah, no one's talking about that.
Mm.
You know what I
Of
mean? In
course.
hindsight, it's so easy for football fans to sit down and talk about stuff after the fact.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? And completely disregard all the other context.
You know, the key thing is for me, we know how we play now. We know our style of play. So we know we're going to give up chances. And by give up chances, I mean, we give up a lot of chances per game. We know that's going to happen. If that's the case, then you've got to make sure you've bought forwards at the other end that limit how important that is.
Yeah.
Because when you look at the games we've won so far this season, we've not been free scoring. A lot of the games we've won have been because we've been good at the back when we had Van der Ven and Romero and Adogi fit. We haven't been killing teams off the other end. What you've seen in the last 3 games is we haven't got that back four anymore to help us. Yeah. So now it's very noticeable that we're conceding more goals.
Sure.
And now it's really highlighting that we don't have goals in our team. Like we have some goals, but not enough to say, all right, go on, have like Villa had 15 chances in our own ground, 15 chances and some big ones as well. We've got to remember that. They had some very big chances. So look, that's for Spurs, that's for the scouts, that's for the director of football, that's for the manager to sit down and go, okay, we've got to be more clinical. Let's go and find what we need in the market. That's their job, not mine, not me as a football fan. It's their job.
True. No, 100%. No, you're completely right. But like you said, you know the kind of football that Spurs play. You know what to expect. You know what I mean? So knowing that, it's just you lot just kind of have to ride the wave at the moment. Like you know what your manager's got to work with. Like you haven't brought in a lot of depth to help him. It was always a if Tottenham can keep the first 11 fit, and you've lost crucial players. Not only are they crucial to the style of football, but also like in terms of ability, they're actually some of your best players. Like when you look at suspensions and injuries, because I think Basuma wasn't available the last game. You lost Madison and you lost Van der Ven. Like that's crazy. Like these are important players. It's not just losing players; it's losing crucial players as well. And you don't have the depth. So obviously there needs to be some sort of allowances made for those things.
Yeah, of course. Look, as I said at the beginning of the show, I never want to be one of these fans who who talks too much about excuses. Look, I think you all know if clubs lose their better players, you're going to suffer. And the fact that Spurs are losing better players that we specifically bought in the summer because our squad wasn't very good, it's taken us back to where we were. So it was always going to hit us hard. But hey, every team is the same. You all have the same amount of time in the summer to address problems, to build a squad, to cope with injuries. Spurs aren't there yet. I think the fact that we're playing Emerson Royale and Ben Davis as a centre-half pairing tells you all you need to know about our squad depth.
Yeah.
So, look, some of the football's been very good. I think could we have got more points from yesterday's game? Yeah, absolutely. Did we know? But I don't think there's any shame in losing to Villa. I think Villa are a very, very good team that
and also
everyone wants to knock them, but they're a good team.
It's also the manner that you lost as well. I think they're up there with like the top scorers in the Premier League. In terms of goals scored, I think they're near the top, if not at. And it's like it's the manner you lost. It's not like you got absolutely smacked. If you did, then cool, that's a different story. But when you look at the manner of the loss, like you can't be too dejected. It's like when you're talking about your squad, United are the opposite. We started the team yesterday we started a game, with only the goalkeeper being the manager's signings. Everyone else was at the club before he arrived. So when you talk about the players that you brought in that have been instrumental for your team to kick on, all of these players are not in the team. And we scored 3 goals. We scored 3 goals in the league, I think, for the first time this season without any of his players. So that tells you just how bad he's actually been in the transfer market.
Yeah. Look, I think it's hitting everyone as well. I looked at Brentford the other day. Brentford have got like 9 first-team players out. Newcastle 10. Chelsea have had loads all season. Man City, as you said, look at their squad decimated at the weekend as well. So for me, look, injuries are of course an excuse, but I do feel it all depends on how long has a manager been there, how long have they had to build the squad to get it to the way they want. At the moment, I feel for Postecoglou because he's been left with Davis and Royale as the centre backs. The only question I would ask is, could he have played one of the youngsters at centre half? Could he have given one of them a chance to elevate rather than putting Emerson Royale, who's useless at his own position, putting him into centre half? But look, we don't know what goes on behind the scenes. We don't know what happens in training. But it was a decent performance. Do you know what it is? I've said this to everyone, Rants. Problem with Spurs' style of play, it's very nice to watch. After 60 minutes, all the players look shattered.
Yeah, it's very demanding.
Very demanding. And if anyone watches that game back, what you'll see in the first half, whenever Villa's free in the middle, was it Kamara, McGinn, and Luis? Whenever they got the ball, we had 3 or 4 players swarming around them. They didn't have any time to do anything. Second half, after about 10 minutes, when that dropped off, that intensity, because they were tired, you started seeing McGinn, Tielemans, who had come on by that point. They started getting their foot on the ball and looking up for the runners in Digne, Leon Bailey, who came on and had a good game, Watkins. And the moment then that happened, I think Villa worked out, hang on, we know how to beat the press here from Spurs. So it's great to watch. I don't think any neutral football fan could say they watched our first half an hour and didn't love what they saw. But is it sustainable is the question I'm going to ask. Is it sustainable?
The lack of depth comes in, because even when you watch Liverpool, who press quite similarly to you lot, if you watching their game as well, like I think Klopp might have made all 5 of his substitutes. You know what I mean? Because it requires fresh legs when you wanna put pressure on the ball like that. Whereas City didn't have any senior players on the bench. They didn't have any senior players on the bench, and he didn't make a single substitution.